Hi there Booktube, it's Eleanor here and it's time for my What I Read video. You may have noticed that I haven't had a video up for about a week because for about a week I hadn't read very much, so I decided not to do my last week's What I Read and wait until I had a few more books to talk about. Consequently now I've got quite a lot of books to talk about, but I will talk about them in a minute. First of all, I want to do some Booktuber shout-outs. Now, normally I just do one, but this week I want to do 4. And 2 of them are because they are 2 people that or 2 channels that I've really been enjoying watching the Booktubeathon wrap-ups and vlogs for. I haven't managed to participate in Booktubeathon this year just because of life things that have been going on, and it's summer holidays for my daughter, so I've got a lot less time to do reading. However, I've been really enjoying watching other people's vlogs, and especially 2 channels. One channel is Lala from Books and Lala. I absolutely adore her channel. She does a great video once a month talking about sort of booktube news, bookish news, things that are going on in terms of movie adaptations. I really love watching those videos. I feel like I learn loads about what's coming up in the book industry. And also during Booktubeathon, she's been doing daily vlogs. She's really put her heart and soul into doing these vlogs. I've loved seeing her with her family. Her relationship with her son is so lovely, and I just love watching her do all the challenges and just following on in her daily life. I'm not really one to watch lifestyle vlogs, but because this one's sort of a booky lifestyle vlog, I've really enjoyed it. So I've really been enjoying her channel, and I will link all of these channels that I talk about down below. The other channel that I've really been loving during Booktubeathon is Heartful of Books. That is Maddie and Bea, and they are brilliant. They're twins and they have their own channel, and most of you probably watch them anyway, but they've been doing really wonderful vlogs for Booktubeathon. They've really got into the spirit of it, and I've just really enjoyed watching them, so you should definitely check them out if you don't already. Next, I want to shout out 2 channels that I've been really enjoying recently. One is Alexa Loves Books. Alexa reads a wide variety of books. I really love her conversations on what she thinks about books. She always has books that I haven't seen before, and I'm always adding things to my TBR. I don't know if she's predominantly YA books. She reads a lot of YA, but I don't think she's predominantly. I think she has a good mixture in there, but I think she does tend towards more YA, which is fine for me because I love YA. I probably read a sort of 50-50 split. And then the final shout out for this week is the wonderful Kate Howe. I've been watching Kate's videos for a while now. In fact, I think since when she started. I really enjoy watching her channel. She reads very different books from me often. She likes sort of crime novels, both sort of harder crime thrillers and cozy crime. She reads a lot of general adult fiction, and I just really enjoyed watching her, and she's definitely giving me a run for my money in terms of how many buddy reads she can fit in one go, so I really enjoy watching that. She is a machine, so I've really been enjoying watching her channel, and I definitely think you should check her out too if you don't already. So I'll link all 4 of those channels down below just in case you want something new or different to watch, and I hope you go over and show them some bookish love if you don't already follow them. Right, so let's get into the books. So the first book I completed over the last 2 weeks is Elizabeth Gilbert's The Signature of All Things. This was my Booktuber recommends, I think for May, from Patty from I Smell Books, and I picked this up in the end on audiobook because it was a little bit intimidating for me. It's very much a slower read, and I thought maybe the audiobook would help me to move along with it, and I was trying to get into audiobooks, and I really enjoyed the narrator. It's the story of Alma Whitaker. She is a lover of all things in nature. She is a scientist, and she is just born in an era where that is much more difficult. She loves studying science in the most minute of detail. However, she struggles in more human and social situations. In this book, we follow her life and her studying. We follow her from a young girl all the way through to late adulthood. The characters and the writing in this were really beautiful, especially the descriptions of the setting and the scenery, and unfortunately for me, it just dragged a little in places. I think it could have been a slightly shorter book. It was really good. It's not a very plot heavy book. You're following someone's life and that's okay, but it just dragged a little bit in places for me, and so unfortunately it wasn't sort of a higher rating than 3 stars. I really enjoyed it though. I really enjoyed Alma's character, and as I say, the writing was very beautiful, but in terms of sort of plot and pulling me through, it just dragged a little in places, and I wish we had sort of moved along at a slightly faster pace. But I'm pleased I read it, and thank you to Patty for recommending this one. So the next book I picked up following on the same theme was my June Booktuber recommends, and that was from the lovely Nicole at Dorker Brain, and that was The Rook by Daniel O'Malley. I've really been wanting to read this for ages. I've had it on my shelf. When Nicole recommended it to me for my Booktube Recommends project, I was like, right, great, that's going to give me the push to actually pick it up and read it. I really enjoyed this book. I want to sort of state at the beginning that I didn't realise exactly what type of story it is, what type of genre, and this genre isn't for me. I know it's not for me, and that's why it didn't get a higher rating, because I know now that this sort of dark, noir-y, comical book, a little bit Rivers of London-esque, just isn't the type of book that really does it for me. However, it was really, really well written, very fast paced. Again, I listened to this on audiobook, which was really good, and it was a really good story. It's the story of a woman. She wakes up in a park. She doesn't really know who she is or where she is, and she starts finding notes from the person whose body she is inhabiting, telling her that she's part of this sort of secret society, bit sort of MI5 but for supernatural and people with ability. People have said it is sort of X-Men meets James Bondy. I can see that to a degree. It was really well written. The pace was really fast. The plot was really engaging. It's just the type of story it is, with this sort of snarky character and the sort of very evil villains and the slightly dark, weird humour just doesn't do it for me personally. So I struggled to choose between 3 and 4 stars for this because of the writing style, but I think I couldn't give it below 4 stars because it was a really good book. And so I think if you do like those sort of books, certainly if you like sort of Rivers of London type stories and that type of writing, you'll really enjoy this one. So thank you to Nicole for recommending it to me. So the next book I picked up was a bit of a departure from my normal style, and that was Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. This is a poetry collection. I don't read poetry ever. It's just not something that I really find I enjoy, mainly because I just miss a lot of the meaning. I find it a struggle to get the emotional connections in poetry, and that's my issue. It's nothing to do with how good the poetry is. I really wanted to pick this up because people have loved it. It's a poetry collection split into 4 sections. You've got the hurting, the loving, the breaking and the healing, and it follows what I can only feel must be an autobiographical journey through a woman's love life, I think, from what I can gather. I think the struggle for me is that I'm really not sure that poetry is for me. I struggle to get any main meanings from it, and I don't get the emotional connection that I get with longer pieces of writing. But as I say, I think that is my issue rather than poetry's issue. I read this in one sitting. It's very readable. The poems are extremely short, and I think for me the best section, the most impactful section, was the first section, which was a lot darker and covered a lot more gritty themes, and I found them more impactful. But I definitely recommend reading this if you like poetry and you want to give it a go. I'm trying to find one that I could read you. Okay, so this one I thought was quite good. Every time you tell your daughter, you yell at her out of love. You teach her to confuse anger with kindness, which seems like a good idea till she grows up to trust men who hurt her because they look so much like you. Which I thought was quite interesting. I found often with these, they didn't feel like poems, they just felt like insightful snippets. But I suppose, you know, what is poetry? I don't know. I'm not where I don't know poetry well enough, but I really enjoyed this and I gave it 4 stars. Next, unfortunately, to the most disappointing book of the week, and I read this with the lovely Olive and at a book Olive, and this is the Yunel Riding Camp for Girls by Anton Disclafani. We read this as a buddy read and it was just boring. The characters, I couldn't get any connection from them. I didn't feel anything for them. I found our main protagonist was very juvenile. She didn't learn from her mistakes, which I found really frustrating, and I just didn't get her motivations for things. Basically, it's a story of a girl. She's been sent off to this sort of riding camp come school, which is a long way away from where she's from. She's from Florida. She's moved to sort of the hills. Whereabouts is it? In Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. She's gone to this girls' riding camp, so riding's quite a big theme in here. She loves horse riding. She's a twin. She's lived with her parents and her twin brother, and they have a close relationship with their cousin, her auntie and uncle and her cousin, and she's been sent away to this camp as kind of a punishment, or to try and get her away from a particular situation. It's meant to be the sort of big mystery of the book, although it's not really a mystery because we kind of know what's going on. But I just really didn't get her motivations as a character. I found it a very slow and tedious read, and I was just really disappointed. This wasn't what I was expecting at all, and so I gave it 2 stars. The next book I read was a buddy read with the lovely Jen from Today in Jen's Library, and we read The Museum of Extraordinary Things by Alice Hoffman together. I've had this out from the library for a while. I wanted to get it back. Jen wanted to read it too, so we decided to read it together. I really enjoyed this book. It was full of beautiful writing. It's very magical in its feeling. I loved the pacing and the plot of this, and it's written from 2 perspectives. It's written from Coraline, who is the daughter of the freak show owner in Coney Island, and it's written from Ezekiel, who is an Orthodox Jewish boy who is living with his father on the other side of the river. Ezekiel's family are Jewish immigrants from the Ukraine, and they've come over. They're very poor. They're working in factories, whereas when they were at home they had much better jobs. We follow both of these characters from their early childhood to their mid-20s. I really liked how Hoffman wrote the backdrop of this story. It was really evocative, really beautiful. I really enjoy her writing style. I definitely want to read more from her now. I would definitely recommend this one if you want something a bit different, a bit magical, with beautiful writing and really strong characters. So I gave this one 4 stars. And then the final book I completed this week was Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Nouvel. I read this as a buddy read with Caitlin from Channel Kitty G and Lauren from Jelly Books, and we read this together and I was very excited. I listened to this actually in the end on audiobook. It set out the whole of the book in interview files, so it's done like interviews. So you've got the main interviewer who's in bold, and then you've got the text. And the audiobook, they have taken a number of narrators, I think maybe 5 or 6, and each of them has taken a different character, and I really think that helped in helping who was who in this and knowing who was talking, and I really think that helped me sort of get that through my head, who was chatting and who was being interviewed all the time. This was okay. It just wasn't as good as I was expecting. The sort of main guy who's the interviewer is kind of Bond villain-esque. He's just, you know, not a good guy, and it's all a little bit tongue-in-cheek feeling. The basic story is about a young girl. She falls down a hole as a child and lands in this sort of big metallic hand, and she becomes a scientist later in life. We discover that there's these parts of a robot buried all over the world, and they're trying to sort of bring them up and put them back together. And I wish that we had had more of the robot in this and finding out more about that, but there was a lot more of sort of the politics behind something like this in terms of relationships between other countries, and there was a little bit in there, but I felt I needed more of sort of the robot part. But I think this is going to be a series, so perhaps that is going to come later on. It was interesting. It was a good idea. It was a really good idea. There just needed to be more of the robot and more action. There just wasn't enough action in here to sort of, for me to find it really interesting. I definitely think I will see what the rest of the series has to offer. I will definitely pick up the next one and just see how it goes. But this wasn't my favourite, and it certainly wasn't as mind-blowing as I was hoping it to be. So I gave this one 3 stars. And don't forget that there's still a couple of weeks if you want to go over to my Etsy store and pick up the book buddy box for September. There's only a few left now. I'm so pleased people have been interested in the book buddy box. I've put loads and loads and loads of time into this, so I'm really excited. There's some really special content going into the Goodreads group. We've got an interview with the author of the book, which is exclusive to us, and I'm doing a book review video of the book from myself, which is going to be only available on that Goodreads via a link, and there'll be lots of discussion, and there's lots of exciting things waiting in the book if you get the book buddy box for you to discover as you read the story. So I'm really excited. So yeah, don't forget, I'll link it down below, and if you fancy giving it a go, unfortunately it's only open to the UK, as I mentioned in my announcement video, because of shipping and shipping costs, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe in the future that's something I can open it up to if I continue and it does well, but we'll just have to see. But thank you so much for everyone that showed me support so far, and for all your lovely messages. Even if you've been in other parts of the world, you've all been really, really lovely and showing me so much love and support for this new venture of mine. So I'm really touched, so thank you very much. So that's all the books that I've read over the past couple of weeks. I'm currently in the middle of a few books which I will talk about in a later wrap up. I hope you're all having a good week. Definitely go and check out the 4 booktubers that I mentioned at the start of the video. They'll all be linked down below, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye for now, Booktube.